Welcome back, everyone, in War Eagle. My name is Eddie Orantes, and I'm the Director of Business Operations for the Office of Alumni Affairs at Auburn University. And for the next 30 minutes, your host of 18 minutes and 56 seconds, the Auburn Alumni Association Speaker Series. To see all our shows, you can go to aub.ie/1856 series. We want to keep this fast moving. So all our guests will talk or present to do what they do for no more than 18 minutes and 56 seconds. And we want to hear from you. So ask questions and interact by leaving comments on our Facebook page. We'll do our best to answer them in the half hour that we have together. Today, my guest is Paige and Josh Wetzel. Paige is the wife to double amputee retired Army Sergeant Josh Wetzel, and they have two beautiful daughters. Paige served as the Director of Volleyball Operations for Auburn University for 4 years, where Josh is the current Assistant Director of Digital Media. Josh has been promoted to Sergeant, received the Purple Heart Award, and officially retired from the Army to live civilian life with his family. The Wetzels remain active in support of veterans and enjoy serving at their home church, Church of the Highlands, and promoting Auburn Athletics, and they live here in Auburn, Alabama. It is so good to have both of you here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be a part of this.
You're excited. I'm excited. Listen, I've spent some time getting to know both of you through some of the shows that you've done in the last year, as well as congratulations promoting a recent book. But there's just so much that I want to be able to learn about and share with our viewership. But to start, I think we can go with a video. So how about we start there?
Yeah, sounds good.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Josh. Happy birthday.
To have Aubie for your birthday is a great treat.
Yeah.
Big time. You know you've made it when Aubie's at your birthday.
Yeah, the 30th birthday.
Yeah.
All of these.
Okay, but before we do, there's maybe a little surprise that you better see on the scoreboard if everybody just wants to walk right out this gate.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Aubrey, you want to lead them out there?
Oh, there's a very own Kate Larkin.
Yep, Kate Larkin. Always front and center, always the head cheerleader.
Yep.
That's our oldest daughter, Harper. Josh and Harper watching football at Walter Reed.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Big time. Yeah, really.
That got me right there,
Yeah.
as it did you. Rightly so.
Really dusty just now.
I chose to start with this video because there's so much to both of you and to your family. You've been through, you've been through a lot. And what I wanted to do was to take those that are watching this show, take them through some of this journey. We're going to unpeel it little by little. But it's very fitting that it starts here, that it's about the Auburn family, right? And so can you guys take me back to your personal stories, what your upbringing was and how you both met? Can we start there?
Yeah, so I was in a military family. My father served in the military. He was deployed to Desert Storm. I was born in Germany, moved to El Paso, Texas for a little while, and then moved to Alabama when I was in the first grade, and grew up in Northeast Alabama in a small town in Glencoe, Alabama, and grew up playing sports, and I was that kind of rough kid without like a real fear of anything. If you remember the movie Old Yeller, like I was Alice, always playing with snakes and like all kinds of critters. I had everything. Once had a toy box that never had toys in it. It just had critters that lived in it. And so that was kind of, who I was, and, grew up playing sports, and graduated high school in 2005, and probably should have gone in the Army right out of high school, but decided to play baseball at a little school called Young Harris College in North Georgia. Went there for a year. I played baseball and didn't do very much studying at all, and then came back home, and I was gonna try to play at Gadsden State University, and that's
Community.
Yeah, Gadsden State Community College. Sorry, I always call it university. It's a big school. But that's where I met my lovely wife, and I'll let her tell a little bit about her story.
Yeah, so I grew up honestly about an hour north of where Josh was from, but I grew up in Fort Payne, Alabama, and I had never moved. My parents still live in the same house that I grew up in. My family was always kind of just right down the road, and I was not familiar with the military at all. My last family member that served was my grandfather, and he's in a generation where everyone served, and so I was completely unfamiliar with that. But I went to school just on a volleyball scholarship, and I met Josh my freshman year at Gadsden State, and it was kind of one of those things where like all the athletes were on campus because we were all practicing, but there was no regular students on campus, so the athletes just hung out with each other, so we all got to know each other really fast. And then, we dated through those years in junior college. And then I went to Jacksonville State to continue to play. And then Josh ended up going to the University of North Alabama to be a student assistant for their baseball team there. And that's kind of that was the big fork in the road. It was kind of like I had eyes on the prize. I'm trying to graduate. I'm, trying to have a good volleyball season, all those things. And Josh is still kind of like really enjoying socializing.
I wanted to go pro in Halo at that time, and wasn't a good profession.
Wasn't a good look. And so we just got to this point where I was kind of like, I feel like we're going in different directions, also at different speeds. So, I'm going to give you the space to figure yourself out, and I'll figure myself out. And in that time of being separated, Josh decided that it was time to, join the Army. And so he joined the Army. And then the next day he called me, and we really hadn't talked in a long time. And he just said, I want to let you know that I've not even told my family, but I signed up for the Army today. And it was a real volatile time for the military because it was 2009 when he signed up. So that was the big surge from Iraq to Afghanistan. We're starting to make that big shift. And so I was proud of him, but by the time he told his family, there were a lot of people that were very concerned. You're signing up at a very crazy time, and obviously it's their son, their nephew, their grandson that they're thinking about, and so they're just really, really concerned. And so you know, I just wanted to support him, and my thing was, I was like, you're doing the right thing, and you've got to just, you got to stick with what you're doing, so that was something that just kind of rekindled our friendship. And then we ended up, getting back together.
So something interesting happens, right? You get back together, you identify what it is that you want to pursue short term. If at that moment in time you were told what the next, 10, 15, 20 years would look like, would you have believed it? And that's what I want to take us to, because y'all come together, get married, and then something happens. Something about a double backflip takes place.
Yep.
So tell me about that, Josh, because it's a serious moment in your life, but your attitude and the way that you dealt with it, both of you dealt with it, is so inspiring. Please share.
Yeah. So we were deployed. I was a 2nd Infantry Division out of Fort Lewis in Washington State, and we deployed to Afghanistan in March of 2012. And where we were deployed was, right outside of Kandahar, Afghanistan, where Kandahar was essentially the birthplace of the Taliban. So it's a pretty hotly contested area all around that. And where we were at was a little village called Mushan, Afghanistan. It's in like the Horn of Panjwai, where 2 rivers meet. And we our main threat was improvised explosive devices, and so everywhere we went, we were like ducks in a row behind a metal detector, which in Army doctrine is like a no-go. But when your biggest threat is improvised explosive devices, then you've got to stay behind the metal detector. And early on in deployment, we realized team leaders were going to have to step up and take a role in this. When we first got there, we entrusted the metal detector to the lower enlisted, and a couple of guys got injured, and we just weren't moving efficiently. And so as a team leader, I stepped up and I was like, look, I'll take on this role. Kind of goes back to the not having a healthy fear of anything. Like I just it never crossed my mind like I might actually step on one of these. Like I was just gonna, it was a game to me at that point. Like I was just gonna find them all, and got pretty good at it. Found and cleared over 30 IEDs. And I like to joke around, like in sports, being 30-1 will get you in the Hall of Fame sometimes. In the Army, it'll get you metal legs sometimes. So, but we were on a patrol on May the 31st of 2012, and we were moving along pretty good. We were almost to our, the end of our mission, and it was about 117 degrees that day. And so we had to switch some things up in our formation because guys were kind of struggling a little bit under their combat loads. And, as we were switching things up, our main sniper got put behind me, and so we're moving along pretty good, and I'm sweeping, and I come up to a road, and it's got 2 lines of rocks in this road, and you just don't see that in everyday nature. So I knew that there had to be an IED in the area, and so I radioed back to my platoon sergeant. I was like, look, I'm going to take my time going across this road, clear it really good, make sure everybody gets across, make sure it's really marked really well so everybody knows where to go. And he was like, all right, cool. So we did that, marked it, got everybody across, and as we're crossing a field, we come up to a wall with a low space in it. And I go to the low space because we'd had a lot of success actually finding the IEDs in these low spaces, and we had gotten so good at finding them that they had stopped putting them there. So we just kept going there. And, with my metal detector, I cleared in front of the wall as best I could. And as I went to reach across and clear the other side is when I stepped on the pressure plate IED, instantly losing both of my legs. I can remember everything from stepping on it, flying through the air, and landing. And I think that's kind of where the funny-ish part, I guess how you take it, comes in. But as soon as I landed on the ground, I knew what had happened. I watched a guy do it the day before. They were in an element a little bit north of us, and he was a pretty high double amputee. And so I knew I'd probably lost both my legs. And my medic was my best friend at the time. And he's normally a shaky guy in real life. And I didn't want that guy. I could imagine, watching my best friend step on an IED, like I'd be a little shaky myself. So I knew he was going to be a little extra shaky, and I didn't want that guy working on me. So I was just trying to think about, like, how could I calm this guy down, and he gets to me, sure enough, extra shaky, he's freaking out. And I'm like, hey man, listen, first of all, we're going to be okay. All right. Second of all, did you see that sick flip that I just did? And he was like, what? Like, shut up. Like, and he's still working on me. I was like, seriously, like, if I would have had feet, I would have landed that. And he was like, how do you know you don't have feet? And I was like, well, you just answered that question for me. I appreciate you. And then from that point forward, like, I was just joking around, being my, normal goofy self. And, I was, I wasn't allowed to have morphine. So they had these little fentanyl lollipops that they give you for painkiller or whatever. I don't like grape anything.
No.
They handed me a grape flavor. Like, I refused to put it in my mouth. At one point, I rubbed it in the dirt, so I knew that they wouldn't make me put it in my mouth at that point. But, the entire time I was laying there, I never really had like a fear of dying. I just knew that from that moment on, like, I had a mission to get better,
With that mission, I've read a little bit, and you made mention that you were also thinking, oh man, I'm gonna have to tell Paige now that this happened, right? It was almost like, I told her I would come back completely perfect, and here I am missing two parts of my body. The story is an amazing story, Josh. It shows a lot about your character and what happens after that. So I'm going to fast forward us just a little bit. But I do want to point out to those that are watching this that there is a certain character that came out from this. Naturally, you're a positive person, but Paige, at the same time, behind every strong man is an amazing woman, right? And that relationship that you guys built to get yourselves through this is fascinating. So, Paige, what was going through your mind as this took place, and how did you get through this tough part in your lives, in Josh's life?
Well, I always tell a story of just how I think it was a gift that I was misinformed at first. So the Department of the Army has to call whenever something like this happens. And I got that phone call, it was 6 o'clock in the morning. And, I just knew this is it. It's just a weird time of day, a number I didn't have. And so sure enough, it was somebody telling me that my husband had been injured. And at first, they told me that he had lost both of his legs, both of his arms were broken, but they also said he had a C4 break in his neck and that he was unconscious. And so that was information that I carried for about 3 days as we were trying to get him back to the United States. And so, yeah, I was really concerned about him not having legs, but I also thought he could be paralyzed. And I didn't know how conscious he was of his injury. And what's my role in that? Is he going to wake up and I have to kind of explain what happened and why he's all of a sudden in the United States and that kind of thing? And so I really just could not. I mean, I was in such a fog. I couldn't think clearly because that was just the forefront of my mind. And so his medic actually talked to me, and he was just like, hey, Josh, obviously about Josh, and he was asking me to send you some things. Like, he had a journal and some other stuff, and where can I send it? And I was just so confused because I was like, he asked you to do something after he got hurt? I've been told he was unconscious. And he was like, oh God, no. Like, he was running his mouth and making jokes and, and when I knew that, I mean, I was like, we'll figure the rest out. But as long as I'm still getting the same goofy guy that I married, I was like, we'll be able to figure this out. But I always say that it was a gift that I was initially misinformed, because it truly could have been so much worse.
That's awesome. I'm glad that it turned out the way that, in fact, it did. we've got 10 minutes left. We did receive something from Facebook that it's from Ann Stevenson, and Ann says, "Bless you and your family, and thank you for helping your fellow veterans." You get back to the States, you have to face the reality um, dealing with not having those legs, but you are assisted with you've been given legs, right? I don't know if it made you taller or shorter, if it was the same height, but you have these legs now, and you're able to then serve, like this post just came through, to help be an advocate for veterans. And I'd like to spend a little time on that, if you're okay with it.
Sure.
Those personal victories, right? I know that there was a desire to finish your degree, and in fact, you did. Josh, you finished your master's degree through Auburn?
My bachelor's
Your
from,
bachelor's? Sorry about that. You started working for Auburn. And then, Paige, same thing with you. You found work outside of the home and eventually made your way to Auburn as well. And within that time period, you also have 2 children. So life moved on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You were able to face those challenges, and you came out better because of it. In the book, there's what is it, chapter 16. It's called A Test, and I spent a lot of time, golly, reading through that because it shares that journey and it shares your individual perspective from having been in the hospital and thinking, "I'm done, we're well," to then realizing that there is more to life, and that you came through better individuals. I identified with it, and more so because in these 2 perspectives, you found a lot of healing in the community. Can you tell me about the Auburn community experience?
yeah. I mean, when I first got out of the military, when you're in the military, they teach you to always have a battle buddy at all times. And that's, so, if you ever fall, you've got somebody there to pick you up, or when you're going through struggles, you've got somebody that's got your back at all times, and when you get out of the Army, you kind of lose that battle buddy, and you lose that purpose a little bit, and, moving to Auburn was, just huge, from when I was in the hospital and people, reaching out, and, all the Auburn fans that sent me stuff. And, when we met the president, and, there were, we had our picture taken with the president with all the Auburn stuff in the background and my Auburn photo on, like that exploded. And I really felt the Auburn community then. And, but when I got out, I kind of lost that sense of community a little bit. I moved to Auburn. I was going to school and everything, but I was isolating myself further and further away from like my family and my friends and my community, and, honestly, when we came here, it took me a while to really embrace that, like I was doing my work thing and I was just trying to succeed individually, but I wasn't, I was pulling away from my family and that community a little bit, and it took me a long time, and Paige tricking me into going to a small group at our church to really realize that I needed that community, and I needed that in my life, to know that there were other men that were going through the same things that I was going through, and honestly, the day we moved to Auburn, the Auburn community just kept rallying around us. The day we moved in, Kate Larkin had 10 to 12 people at our house to help us unload our U-Haul. And there was a snowstorm going on, and they were already at our house ready to, help us unload that stuff. And then, when we built our house, like hundreds of people showed up, and we got, 2.5 acres of sod laid in like 45 minutes, which is ridiculous, and, when this video of me finding out about our second child came out, just the outpouring from the Auburn community then, I mean, it was just unbelievable, and, we talk about, I work in athletics, and we really play off of that Auburn family thing. And I think it started out as, just like a marketing message, but it has really grown into a real thing, because that family and the Auburn family is real, and it's a real thing, and it's amazing to see it and work,
That's awesome, Paige. I'm going to ask you a question in a few minutes, but before I do that, I want to thank you, Josh, because you helped support in establishing the Auburn Alumni Association Veteran Scholarship in 2017. That was your year. came out of that, and you quickly volunteered to speak on behalf of the Tiger Giving Day video that we put together. And as a result of that, $1,000 every year is awarded to one student. And so thank you for that. It's definitely made an impact, and we appreciate it. Paige, what led, and we've got about 5 minutes left, what led to you writing this book? And what is it that you're hoping to see as an outcome from the book?
Yeah, I think, initially it's just for our daughters because neither one of them knew Josh before he was handicapped. And so I figured by the time they were old enough to hear what really happened, I would have forgotten most of it. So as I was writing it, I really, you're thinking about your kids. And so you also want to write down, please don't miss like what people did for us here. And please don't miss how people stepped up for us in this way. And these are the lessons that we learned. And by the time we compiled that, I was like, man, I think other people need to read this. And so we pitched it to a publisher. That publisher really, she knew how to get Josh participating and in meaningful ways, And so, but I think if there was a goal for me as a civilian, it is to make it easier for just one veteran to have a tough conversation with their family about not only maybe things that happened on a deployment, but how it affects them in doing normal things every day. Because I think what we've learned with just seeing veterans like 8 years removed from their time of service is I'm seeing a lot of people really confuse sorrow and shame, and you lose friends over there and you feel like maybe they're gone because of a mistake you made. And that was something Josh definitely went through, as people were injured and or killed after Josh was injured. He really felt like if I had been there, if I hadn't gotten myself hurt, I could have done something about that. And what happens, and nobody means for this to happen, but what happens is those friends that laid down their lives for this country, because like I said, Josh's situation could have been much worse. And those that laid down their life for this country become this subject that nobody's allowed to talk about. Mm-hmm. And as a civilian, I'm just like, how can we not speak about people that literally gave the ultimate sacrifice? And I think what I've observed is that we think sorrow is the same thing as shame, and you really have to work to separate those things and realize that you served with some of the bravest men and women in the world. And it is our responsibility to live a life worthy of their sacrifice. And you can't do that if you're not allowed to talk about them. So I'm hoping as a civilian that it opens that door and it helps people go, what these people are talking about, that's how I feel.
That's awesome. Thank you for taking the courage and making the time to write it. What we are doing as an association, for those who are watching this today, thanks to you, there is a Books A Million is offering 20% discount to anybody that would like to purchase the book. And I think you're using that code, and it's good until through Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. With the minute that we have left, what I want to do is thank you. Thank you so much for allowing the association to spend time learning about who you are, what you've been through. There is so much more, and we didn't have enough time to go into all the things that I really want to discuss. However, a lot of that is in the book if you want to learn more about that. And I hope that if the opportunity is there, that you'll come back and join us at a different time and different show. But thank you so much for joining us. Please join us next Thursday, October 29th at 11:30 for a fun show about the upcoming Tiger Nation Challenge with our very own David Housel and LSU alumni James Manassa as they share the love of the Tigers and reflect on the history of the Auburn versus LSU rivalry. Until then, stay safe and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.